Does it ever feel like no matter how much you're paying towards your debt, it just keeps on growing? Well, you are not alone, and there's probably a couple of reasons for why that is happening, so let's talk about it. Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Layla and I talk about all things personal finance. Today, I'm breaking down 9 common reasons why your debt is not shrinking and more importantly, how to fix them. Before we get started, I would really appreciate it if you would give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Okay, let's go ahead and jump in. These are in no particular order. Definitely let me know if you have any questions on anything I'm about to talk about. First thing, you're only paying the minimum payments. Making minimum payments will keep you in good standing as far as your debts go, and it is obviously a great place to start. However, more often than not, those minimum payments are barely touching the principal. So if you have a credit card debt and maybe you have several thousand of credit card debt with a high interest rate and you are just paying the minimum, it is going to take you years, many years. It could be like 15, 20 years if you only paid the minimum on that debt, and you would end up paying so much in interest throughout the life of that debt. So I think it's really important to work on aiming to pay more than the minimum payment on the debt that you are focusing on. We'll talk about that more because it's also very important to have a debt payoff plan. Even just an extra $25, $50, $100 per month can make a huge difference. So do what you got to do to either cut expenses or increase your income and make more than the minimum payments, and you will speed things up. Let me quickly show you how impactful an extra $50 per month can be on paying down a debt. So let's say you have a credit card. The balance is $2,000, minimum payment is $25, and the interest rate is 25%. If you only make this $25 minimum payment on this credit card, you're going to see in this chart that your debt's just going to increase. That interest is just going to keep on piling up, and it's going to take you way more than 15 years to pay down this debt. It's going to be actually pretty impossible to pay down this debt. But if instead you start paying an extra $50 per month, you do this every month for several months, maybe even a couple of years, you could instead pay off the debt in 39 months. So if you started this in March 2025, you could pay that off by May 2028. So it would still take a few years, but if you can keep on making extra payments, it's just going to help. And now you can see the graph is showing a decrease in your debt instead of an increase. Second reason, you're not tracking your progress. Having some sort of visual where you can see the progress that you're making month over month or every quarter, every 6 months, every year, even if it's slow progress, that is super motivating to see. It really pushes you to stay on track and gives you something to look forward to. I know that when I was paying down my debt, I actually had multiple trackers because I'm a very visual person, and it was super satisfying to color in. I had a thermometer in my living room, and each time I would pay down $1,000 worth of debt, I would color it in on the thermometer, physically color it in, and I could see it every single day. And that was something for me that was really motivating. I had this in notebooks, I had things printed out. There were many places that I was tracking my progress, and it really helped. And that actually leads me to the partner of today's video, which is PicsArt. PicsArt is an online platform and app that serves as a creative hub for graphic design, as well as video editing and photo editing. They offer a wide range of tools and features, including AI tools that are perfect for beginners and professionals. Let's say that you want to start tracking your debt payoff. You want to create some sort of custom tracker that you can print out, and each time you pay down X amount of money, you color it in, right? So let's go to PicsArt.com, and we're gonna go to Documents, and we're gonna go to Flyer and create a design. So this is with the Pro version of PicsArt. Go to Create a Design. And this project is the size of a piece of printer paper, so we know that we want to print it out, so that's what we're aiming for. And let's see what they have as far as trackers go. So I'm just going to go to this search option under templates and type in tracker. Okay, so we have a wellness tracker so far. I'm just going to click that, and that's going to pull into here. And what I'm going to do instead is, let's rename some things. So this will work. What I want to do, this will work. Let's say you're working on paying down credit card number 1, right? Stretch it to fit, and you can change this font if you would like to. So let's see what we got. Let's try that one. And we're gonna zoom in a bit so we can move things around a bit. but we're gonna delete these days of the week because that's not relevant for this. But we can repurpose this template for what I would like to do. So I like these circles, but they're a bit small, so I'm gonna make it larger. And then I'm gonna delete these other circles, and what I'm gonna do is copy these. Let's put the balance up here, make that a little bit bigger. I'm gonna just move one of these lines up here. Now let's copy these circles, and I'm just gonna pull that down to double the amount. I'm gonna change the background. Let's just make it, let's see. There's all these different options for you to choose from. Let's see if there's something with a credit card. What if we did that? Okay, that's kind of cute. That may be hard to color though. So let's just kind of go with a solid color with maybe some sort of nude. I do want to put on there how much each circle is equivalent to. So let's have this be just black, and we're going to make that smaller. So for this example, we're saying this credit card would be about $5,600, and the reason I came up with that is because there's 7 circles across and then 8 rows total, so a total of 56. And if each one is equivalent to $100, so let's say you're working on paying down $5,600 on credit card number 1, each time you pay down 100, you color in a circle. But you can create a custom tracker, whatever it is that you want to see on there, whatever colors. You can even add, you know, maybe we can add some stickers. We'll put in a little credit card. So you could pop in some different graphics. Let's send that to the back. Maybe let's put a shadow. Okay, there we go. So it stands out a little bit more. Okay, and there you go. You can print this out, color it in, keep yourself accountable. So yes, this was just a few minutes of me messing around with things. Of course, you can customize this as you please or make any sort of budget templates that you want to, debt trackers. You could even create some printables to go and sell on your website and make some money and then pay off debt even faster. The possibilities are endless. Once you are done with your project, you can choose how you want to export it. You can give it a name. So credit card tracker. We'll call it payoff tracker. And then if you want to download it as a PDF, you can choose the size and resolution, and you can either share the link or download it directly to your computer and then print it out. If you are interested in trying out PicsArt and getting started with designing today, I have a 10% discount code in my description box, so you can save 10% on an annual subscription to their Pro plan. Thank you again to PicsArt for partnering with me for this video, and now let's get back to it. Third reason, you are not following a debt payoff plan. You probably have multiple debts and have just been trying to throw extra payments at each of them and hoping for the best, but that's probably not helping your debt payoff journey. It's actually probably slowing you down. So if you have not chosen a debt payoff plan, I highly recommend you do so and start following that plan. So the most common debt payoff plan is the debt snowball. That's where you are tackling your debts from smallest balance to largest balance, and you are paying the minimum payments on all of your debts except for that first debt, that first smallest debt. And once that one's paid off, you are going to snowball that minimum payment plus any extra payments that you can make into the second smallest debt. It's called the snowball method because that payment that you're making is going to get larger and larger as you move down your debts or as you move down the hill. The snowball method is great for those who need psychological wins while paying down their debt. So if it really motivates you to tackle a debt and then move on to the next one, you feel really accomplished by that, then definitely choose that one. On the other hand, you could follow the debt avalanche payoff method, and this is where you're listing all of your debts from highest interest rate to lowest interest rate. You're going to pay the minimums on all of your debts except that first debt with the highest interest rate. You're going to pay the minimum plus any extra payments that you can make, pay that first debt off, and then move that minimum payment and the extra debt payments into the second highest interest debt. So similar idea, but this method is great for those who see finances kind of as just math and they can kind of remove the psychological aspect of it. So this is going to allow you to pay down your debt faster. You're also going to save money on interest, but there is no one size fits all. You've got to do what works best for you. You may even start with the snowball and then switch over to the avalanche. There's other methods as well. So maybe you pay by urgency. So if you have a debt that's about to go into collections, or you have a debt that you owe a family member, you owe a friend, and you want to pay that down before it strains the relationship, I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to focus on that first. You could also pay by largest minimum payment. Maybe one of your debts, you have to pay $800 per month toward it. And so you want to focus on that because then once you pay it off, you free up $800 and you could tackle your other debts. There are a few options. I have a couple of videos relevant to this, so I will link those down below in my description box. But the most important thing is choosing a payoff plan and sticking to it. Reason number 4, you are ignoring interest rates. Now, I know I was just talking about the different payoff plans and I was saying you've got to choose what works best for you. And I do believe that, but there are some scenarios where you've got to look at the math, because if you're following the snowball, but you have multiple debts that have super high interest rates, maybe you have payday loans or multiple credit cards and the interest rates are 28% plus, any minimum payments that you're making on that, they're just going to get eaten up by the interest that you're paying. That's why running the numbers is really important. I actually have a spreadsheet that you can purchase on my Etsy shop where you can plug in your numbers and see what things would look like if you chose the snowball method. And then you can adjust things and see what things would look like if you chose the avalanche and how much it would cost you and how long it would take you to pay down your debt. Depending on the types of debt that you have and their interest rates, it may be best for you to tackle some of those debts with the larger interest rates and then switch over to the snowball or some other payoff method. Mostly because you may make payments toward those, but the balance may not decrease, so you may not see your debt decreasing on a month-to-month basis. It could be increasing because the interest is just taking over. It may even be worth it to consider doing debt consolidation, so debt consolidation with a personal loan or a balance transfer. I have videos on both of those, so I will link those down below, but definitely something that could be helpful if this is what you're dealing with and you still want to follow the snowball method. Reason number 5, you don't have an emergency fund, or your emergency fund is not large enough. Before seriously working on tackling your debt, you're going to want an emergency fund, a minimum of $1,000, but for most people, that is not enough. So I would work on a little bit more, look at your deductibles, look at the factors in your life. Do you have children? Do you have pets? Do you own a home? How secure is your job? Do you have medical issues? Do your children have medical issues? All of these things will help you to determine how much you should have in your emergency fund before tackling your debt. Y'all already know I have a video on this, so that will be linked down below. But having an emergency fund, enough of an emergency fund, is what's going to help prevent you from going into further debt. So if something pops up, sure, you may deplete your emergency fund. You got to change all 4 tires. You have a big medical bill. It may wipe out your whole emergency fund, but at least you had that and you didn't go into further debt. And then if it does get depleted, you can work on building it back up and then refocus on your debt-free journey. Reason number 6, you are taking on more debt while repaying your debt. After working with dozens of clients, most of which who have credit card debt, I honestly think that if you have credit card debt, you should not be using a credit card to pay for anything. Y'all know I love using credit cards, and I think credit cards are a great thing if used responsibly, but so many people cannot use credit cards responsibly, especially if they already have debt. So if you have a balance on a credit card or on multiple credit cards, and you're using those for your daily purchases, even if it's just buying gas or getting your groceries or paying for subscriptions, it can be hard to differentiate those new charges from those past charges, and then it can just start to feel really chaotic and overwhelming. It ends up becoming just an extra thing for you to keep track of on a monthly basis, and oftentimes people don't keep track of the new debt versus the old debt, and then it could affect your minimum payments, so you have to make extra payments toward this card, and now it's messing up your debt payoff plan. Maybe something unexpected comes up and then you also charge that, and yeah, it just creates this never-ending cycle, and it's going to make it even more difficult for you to pay down your debt. So yes, I do strongly suggest for people to pause spending on their credit cards while they are working on paying down their credit cards. Focus on those aggressively, and then you can start using them again as long as you are responsible. Reason number 7, you are not budgeting for unexpected expenses. Things are going to come up throughout the year that you know come up on a regular basis, but you're just not preparing for it. These are things like doctor visits or even unexpected medical bills, car repairs, car maintenance, annual fees, annual subscriptions. The list goes on and on. There are a number of things that come up throughout our year, regardless of who you are. And usually what ends up happening is you create your budget for the upcoming month, and then you're living your month and something comes up. You knew that was coming, but you just forgot about it. So now you're like, oh, how do I move things around so that I can fit this $300 charge? How can I cash flow it? Am I gonna have to pull from my savings? Am I gonna have to go into debt? And this can happen month over month. So I have two solutions here. First up would be something I call year at a glance. This is actually an idea I took from one of my very first clients. Her name is Lynn. So thank you so much to Lynn, because this has helped tremendously and this has helped my clients tremendously as well. I did talk about this in my video on how to create an annual budget, so that will be linked down below. But all that you do is put on a spreadsheet or even on a piece of paper, January through December. And then under each month, I want you to list all of the things that you have to pay for in that month, not your regular expenses, the things that just happen here and there. So for example, maybe in July, there's a couple of birthdays that you need to be prepared for. So you have this birthday, that birthday. How much is it going to cost you per birthday? Maybe you have to have a birthday party, you have to buy birthday gifts. Put blah blah's birthday and how much you expect it to cost. Do you pay your car insurance every 6 months? Then put the 2 months of the year of where you need to pay that. So then you're like, okay, we're going into May. I know I need to pay my 6-month premium. I need to have X amount of money ready to go for that. So list all of the things for all of the months of the year. And this is a great way to keep all that information organized. And then when you are going to make your budget for the upcoming month, you can look at that sheet and be like, oh yeah, I have to make sure I budget for this. My second solution here would be sinking funds. That's just a fancy term for savings accounts specific to a certain thing. So let's say you put together your year at a glance and gifts, birthdays, etc. are popping up left and right. So you're like, okay, I should create a sinking fund or a specific savings account to save up for gift purchases or holidays or car maintenance, for travel. Even just saving a little bit on a monthly basis will help when those quote unquote unexpected expenses come up throughout the year. Reason 8 and 9 kind of go together, but I'll talk about them separately. So number 8 is you are consolidating your debt without a solid plan. Many people use some form of debt consolidation on their debt-free journey, and it is not a magic fix. You are literally just moving debt around. You can save a lot of money by doing this, by lowering your interest rate. You can do a balance transfer, you can get a 0% interest for 18 months, 21 months. Of course, that's going to help you. Sometimes people use a HELOC or a personal loan and consolidate at a much lower interest rate. So they pay down multiple credit cards with that new line of credit and are saving on interest that way. And you have less payments to worry about. But what ends up happening to so many people is they rack up even more debt. They end up doubling their debt because they freed up one credit card or multiple credit cards, and they see that psychology plays a huge role in money, and they see that as, oh, I have more money to spend now. So they have this personal loan or this balance transfer that they're working on paying down, but for whatever reason, they end up charging more to those credit cards that they just got down to a zero balance, and now everything is doubled, and it's going to take you even longer and even more effort and even more money to get out of debt. So that leads me to my last reason, number 9, and that is you're not addressing the root cause. Debt, finances, money, whatever it is, it's not just about the numbers. It's about psychology, and it is about habits. And if you are used to just spending money, you see something that you like and you buy it, maybe you use money that you don't have, that's why you have the credit card debt to begin with, then it is very normal for you to continue that habit. You may pay off some debt, but then you go into more debt because you just felt like doing some shopping. It could be emotional spending. Maybe you have an avoidance issue. It's just easier for you not to look at your finances. So you just have no clue what your numbers even look like, and you don't want to. It scares you to look at those numbers. Maybe you're not budgeting. Maybe you're not tracking your spending. It could be so many things. There's so many factors that affect it, and often it comes down to psychological reasons how we handle our money. So the first thing here is to identify that maybe you do have an issue, or just identify the patterns that you have with handling your finances. And you can work on making some mindset shifts. So that's kind of the first start to that. You can try resolving things on your own, listen to different videos, listen to podcasts, read some books, anything that may help with shifting your mindset around handling your finances. Honestly though, most people who are struggling with this need professional help. So that's going to look like talking to a therapist and speaking things through and getting to the root cause with the help of someone else. And of course, there is absolutely no shame in that. I strongly encourage people to go and talk about these things with a professional, because it could help even outside of finances. But if one of your goals is to pay down your debt or improve your finances, work on your budgeting, sometimes you've really got to look within, and then you will start seeing the change with whatever it is that you're working toward. Now, as for myself, I am not a therapist, but I am a financial coach. And sometimes people don't need psychological help, but instead they just need help with accountability and some guidance on, which templates to use, which path to follow, that type of thing. And that's where I come in. So I will absolutely hold you accountable, help you to come up with a debt payoff plan, help you to budget, and provide those tools that you may need to tackle your debt. So if you're interested in something like that, I do have a couple of options available. That's always linked down below. But whatever it is that you may need, it is out there. It all does start with self-awareness, and that's really important. So if you can get down to the root cause of your financial struggles, then it will help you tremendously. All right, so if your debt keeps growing, one of these reasons may be the culprit. Comment down below if you were listening and you were like, oh, reason number blah, blah, that is why. I would love to hear it down in the comments. If it's another reason, I would love to hear that as well. It could be helpful for others who may be watching. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I would appreciate it if you would give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. It really supports my channel, and I'll see you in my next one.